couple weeks ago.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the International Art Science Committee, IASC, and it has 4 disciplinary working groups: ocean, land, atmosphere, cryosphere, and social. Sometimes it's helpful to know that there's IASC, and then there's 2 other major Arctic science groups: AMAP, which is more assessment, and then WCRP and WWRP and CLIC, which are under WMO. So what's a little different about IASC is it's a creature of the science councils in the different countries. So each working group has 2 people from each member country, and we see us as more representatives of the individual scientists rather than the countries or assessments, and so we try and focus a bit on some of the bigger science questions. Next slide. Over the last few years, we've had a few priorities. One is data rescue, and then we've been lobbying for a drifting ship for a year to take measurements over first year sea ice. That's called the Mosaic project. In the last year or 2, we've upped our involvement with air pollution and supporting Sandy Starkweather on coordinating the Arctic flux observing. The WWRP is developing a polar prediction program, and we think some of the different Arctic groups should coalesce around this as a priority for the next few years. So IASC is helping to support their summer school that will actually be spring school, I guess, next month. And then one of our foci for the last few years has been Arctic weather linkages with mid latitudes. Next slide. So in terms of data rescue, we supported a big conference in the last year. Some of the positive things on the data rescue is we help use cloud sourcing, so we're recovering millions of unique data records from the 19th century for the Arctic. And the other part is all these records are then put into a format that's available for some of the reanalyses. So some of the climate reanalyses are being pushed into the 19th century as well, and this project has greatly increased the number of observations there. Next slide. One of the big pushes that we had starting in the atmospheric working group that also includes virtually all of IASC now is planning for Mosaic. And the idea is that the previous drifting experiment was on old thick ice, and the Arctic is now more first-year thin ice than multi-year ice, and so the idea is multiple observations over an annual cycle. The year polar prediction under PPP is 2017 and 18. We wanted Mosaic to be the same time, but the scheduling of the Sherman icebreaker wasn't available, so the drift will be in 2019 and 20. So there will be some hold on from PPP, but I think the more process studies under Mosaic will still be a major contribution to PPP, even though we've shifted the time a year later. Next slide. One of the issues in terms of interaction of the Arctic with mid-latitudes is the chaotic variability in the jet stream. And I've got two single-day examples here from one winter. On the upper left is a 500 millibar height. At one time, it shows a rather elliptical jet stream, and then that can break down into a more wavy jet stream a couple months later on the right with a more ridge and trough structure. And so if you've got the more circular jet stream, that tends to bottle the cold air in the Arctic with not a lot of interaction. But if you have the wavy jet stream, you end up with like a wave number 2 pattern in the air temperature in the lower right picture, depending upon which side of the ridge you're on in Western North America or over Scandinavia. And the thinking is that if you've got the real rapid circular jet stream, the Arctic can't have time to have much of an effect, but if you're in the wavy pattern, you sort of slow everything down, and there's enough time for the surface warming in the Arctic to help lock in these wavy patterns and last a little longer. So far we're not seeing any shift to longer, colder winters. What we seem to have is a potential effect more on weekly time scales. Next slide. The air pollution focus for IASC is just getting started. They're working with other international groups. One of the main issues is they're trying to connect more with the human health people of the problem. So you get the medical groups with the atmospheric groups working together. Next slide. As I said, we're helping Click and others with the Polar Prediction School that's going to be in Abisko, northern Sweden, here in the middle of April. Next slide. So one of the things we spent some time in Anchorage talking about is what our foci will be for the next few years, and we tried really hard to get that down into two main areas, but as hard as we tried, we found that we came up with 5 topics that were really amicable, that air pollution work is really different from cloud aerosol focus, and we'll continue with the planning for Mosaic and data rescue. We thought we would make a fair amount of progress on linkages over the last few years, but it's really a difficult problem, but it ends up being a very important of interest project, and so all of IASC, their #1 science issue is going to be the role of Arctic in the global climate system. So that includes both atmospheric circulation, but also sea level. So that's where we are. Thanks for your time. I'll take any questions.
This is Allison. Thanks for your presentation. I have a question way back on one of the earlier slides about this data rescue. That's very intriguing. Did you mention where that data is available or how the general public can get on with it?
Yeah, Poland, the UK, and PMEL here, and the National Archives has a joint program. So I think the data is available. I'll have to double check for you. It is all digitized and available. I think it's archived at the Hagley Center, but I have to double check on exactly where that is.
Jim, this is Sarah. I'd be really interested in that too, because I don't know if you know, but there is a reanalysis effort that's underway called CERTA, and I would like to pass that information along to those people who are working on that. I think they'll be very interested in that.
But the thing to do is to contact Kevin Wood that works with me, and he's the main honcho and would easily answer all these questions and all you'd like to know. He helped set up pulling the archives in DC. We photograph them and then cloud source them and then put them in a format that these reanalysis groups can use, but also they're trying to get other information besides just weather. So what's in the logs are available as well. You can search on different words and so on. So I think Kevin.Wood at NOAA.gov will the person to contact.
This is Rangshai. I've got a question or rather a comment for both the presentations, very nice presentations. So we had a very nice summary of all the observations, measurements, and so on, and a little bit of mention of the modeling aspects. So I think what would be nice in the atmospheric focus group is to somehow get a complete summary of what all these activities, past and present and future, in terms of spatial and temporal resolution. So in the sense that satellites are going to give a certain spatial resolution, but there are field experiments that provide values at a given location or maybe at a very high spatial resolution and temporal resolution at a given in and around the site, like for instance, the ARM site in Barrow. So I think all both these talks gave a very nice so the overview of these activities, and to put them in context, it would be nice to look at it from the point of view of these long-term observations and analysis.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You might want to have Matt Shoup from Boulder is one of the main U.S. people on Mosaic and so on, and he's co-located with the people for the Barrow Lab and so on, and just see where all that fits. I know they want, they're thinking about setting up what observations would be on a grid cell basis as they do the ship drift, and making sure they have all the relevant satellites and vice versa.
Yeah, that would be the kind of thing that would be very useful. Yeah, agree.
Okay, thank you, Jim.